So I've been wanting to create some content around cloud for a while now. I've finally had a chance to sit down and create some cloud content for you guys. I just created a video on Packer, which is an awesome utility to create your own custom images for your desired cloud platform. In that video, I showed you how to use Packer with Linode to create a custom image. And a custom image is great because if you are deploying servers, then there's probably a lot of manual tweaks that you add. And it would be nice to automate that type of thing. And that's what I showed you how to do in a previous video. And in this video, I wanted to show you guys another tool, this time around Terraform. Terraform is one of my favorite tools for provisioning servers, so I wanted to give it some love on my series. And in this video, I'm again going to use Linode as an example. Yes, they are a sponsor, but they are awesome. I highly recommend you check them out. And we're going to use that platform to provision and be the example for Terraform. Terraform allows you to do all kinds of awesome automation things around the cloud. And this video is kind of like a beginner thing. It's just about getting started. But I definitely think that if you are in DevOps or if you work with cloud platforms, Terraform is a must. So if you haven't already checked it out, then maybe this video can be a great starting point for you. Now you're going to need a Linode account to follow along with my examples. If you don't already have one, check out the link in the description below or the URL on the screen right now, where you can go to get $20 toward your own infrastructure. That'll be more than enough to suffice for getting through the tutorial and getting through this content. So go ahead and check that out if you don't already have an account. But let's go ahead and dive into Terraform. I'm really excited about this. It's going to be awesome. So here we are on my laptop. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to need to do is download Terraform, because without it, well, we can't use Terraform. So what we're going to do is open a web browser. And I already have mine open. This is the URL up here at the top of the screen. I'll have this also in the description below, so you don't have to worry about it. It is, the font is kind of small here, but basically, when you're on the Terraform download page, we have Terraform available for several different providers, which is awesome. And of course, I'm going to use the Linux version. That's what this video is all about. I'm going to show you how to do this from Linux. Now, the code that I will be creating here, you can go ahead and use that on pretty much any platform. There might be some differences, but if you're not using Linux, I'll leave that part up to you. Now, I'm going to download the 64-bit version of Terraform, so I'll click on that and save it. And most of you will probably want to use the 64-bit version as well. If you're using something else, go ahead and click on that. If you don't know if you are on 64-bit or 32-bit, well, first of all, if you're on Ubuntu 19.10 like I am, you're 64-bit. There's no other option. So I went ahead and made that simple for you. But if you're not using Ubuntu or just not using Ubuntu 19.10, you can just open up a terminal. You can simply type uname-m. And based on the output here, you can see if you're on 64-bit. Obviously I am. I just mentioned that, but this is how you tell if you didn't already know. So you should already have that downloaded. I mean, it's a very small file. It happens pretty quick. So I'm going to go back down to my terminal. In most cases, you'll probably have a downloads directory, but you basically just go into wherever downloaded files normally go to on your computer. And as you can see, I have Terraform right here. Now, Terraform is not installed currently, which we can confirm by just which Terraform. We get no output, it's not installed, but we do need to unzip this file, in which case we're actually going to need the unzip command. So if you do which unzip, you should get some output. If you get no output, that means unzip is not installed. Now, I'm running on Ubuntu like I mentioned, so if you are on Debian or Ubuntu, you can easily install unzip if it's not there by just running sudo apt install unzip, just like that, and put in your password. And of course, it's not going to do anything for me because it's already installed. If you are using something other than Debian or Ubuntu or something based on those as your distribution of choice, you would have to adjust the install command for unzip accordingly. But again, we have this file right here. We want to go ahead and unzip that. So we just run unzip with the file name just like that. And there we go. So we list the storage. We now have the Terraform binary right here. We can remove this because we don't need it anymore. May as well be tidy. And now we just have that one binary and we can already run it. This is not an installer. This is basically completely portable. So if you do // Terraform, You get some, example syntax information here. Basically a help menu tells you how to use the command. So it's already working. We didn't have to install it or install any dependencies. It just works. So that's great, but you're probably not going to want to run Terraform from your downloads directory. Let's go ahead and move that to a more permanent place. So what I'm going to do is do sudo mv for move. We want to move Terraform, and where we want to move it to is user local bin, just like that. We need sudo because this directory here is locked. It needs root permissions. And there we go. So we do ls-l user local bin. I have two files in my case, Packer from the previous video, but we also have Terraform. And you can see Packer is owned by root, Terraform is owned by me. We want to fix that. We don't want anything there to be owned by anything other than root. So we can simply do sudo chown root :root user local bin Terraform. We can see we did update the permissions, and the command I ran again was this one. Sudo chown root for the user, root for the group separated by a colon, and then the path to the binary. So now if we do which Terraform, we can actually see that it recognizes Terraform is installed because user local bin is in my user's path, which means that it's a directory that the distribution looks for when it's looking for binary files. So I could simply type Terraform by itself just like that, and it runs. I don't even need the / anymore. So I'll go back to my home directory, and let's go ahead and get started. Now, in order for Terraform to work with Linode, we need to have an API token. So let's go ahead and take care of that. And here I am on my Linode Cloud dashboard. And what you want to do is click on your username, and then go to your profile. You'll have a section here for API tokens. I already have one here for Packer. That's the one I used in the previous video. I'm going to create a new one by clicking here, add a personal access token. I'm going to call mine Terraform. And we can set the expiration for it. It defaults to 6 months. So after 6 months, this key, you can't use it anymore. But you can make that lower. You can make it 3 or all the way down to 1 if you'd like, or never. I'm just going to choose never. But you can set that accordingly to your security standards, policies, or procedures if you have any, or even just preferences, whatever you think is best. Now here on the bottom section, we have to choose what this key is able to do. Right now it has access to do nothing because everything is set to none. But what we want to do is give it access to do some things because, we want to use this to build. And Terraform can do all kinds of things. So we want to give it some decent permissions here, but we don't want to give it too many. Anything that we want to automate in Terraform, it's going to need permission to perform those tasks. So for example, if you are going to use Terraform to create a Linode, then you want to make sure you actually give it read and write for that, otherwise the key is pretty much useless. I'm going to give it access to IPs read-only, just so Terraform can see that. I'm going to give it read-only access to images, which is always useful if we want to use a custom image. I think that's a good idea. I'm not going to be creating any node balancers, nor will I be creating object storage either. I'm not going to be using stack scripts. And for volumes, I'm going to go ahead and make that read and write. That's a very common use case for Terraform. And I think that's going to be good enough, so I'll click Submit. And now it shows me this API key right here, which I'm going to copy because once I click OK, then, I'm not going to be able to retrieve that. I would have to recreate it in order for this to be presented. It's only going to show this once. Now it's really important that you guys keep that key safe. Don't let anybody see it, because if that key falls into the wrong hands, then whoever has access to that token will be able to use it to do anything that token has permission to do, which is really bad. I've seen people put API tokens in GitHub. I mean, I haven't seen that with Linode, but I mean with AWS, for example, it's just not a good idea. Just keep it safe. Now, obviously, I just showed my API token in the clear on a YouTube video that thousands of people are going to see. And the reason why I don't care is because I'm going to delete that key anyway when I'm done recording, so it really doesn't matter. And I wanted you guys to see what a sample key looks like, so I thought it'd be better just to show you. But in your case, definitely don't let anybody see that key. Now again, I just highlighted the entire thing, I right-clicked, and then I clicked copy because we are going to need to use it. So definitely make sure you keep that in a safe place. Now back to our shell. We have an API key, so as far as we are concerned with our Linode account, we have access to do what we need to do. So let's go ahead and get started on Terraform. We just installed it, so that's all set and done. Now we need a working directory, so I'll just make a new one, and I'll call it Terraform_WD for working directory, and I'll go ahead and change into that directory. Now having a directory for your Terraform scripts is basically common practice, because in the real world you'll probably have a Terraform directory for every project or server, however you want to divide that up. You probably won't have all your Terraform scripts and templates and files and things all in one directory. But we are in my case because we're just going to keep it simple. But how you logically divide that up when you get more knowledge on Terraform is completely up to you. So let's go ahead and start creating our templates now, and we are going to get started on creating Linodes with Terraform. Now in my case, I went ahead and already created a sample, so I'm going to show you that right now, and I'll walk you through everything in the file so you can understand what it's doing. So I'm just going to open up Nano, and I called my file Linode example1.tf. So let's open that. So here we have the file. And Terraform is very picky about syntax and everything. So to keep it simple, I have created a wiki page for this video. Its link is in the description below. You can click on that and you'll find all this code in there. You can simply copy and paste it. So on your end, you would then change the token to whatever yours is. That's simply the provider section right here, which is the first section. The provider is Linode, obviously. And then the only thing we are basically doing is creating a token here equal to our API token, so no surprises there. Now the real magic happens in this section here, which is the resource section. And basically what we're going to do is create a resource called Linode instance. And you can't customize this. I mean, keep this as Linode instance because that's the type of resource you want to create. Now, my Linode right here is a custom name. So if you want to refer to it in another part of the script or add something else and basically refer to this, you'll have a name to remember it by, which we have right here. I just simply called mine my_Linode, no problem. So we have a opening bracket here. Basically everything is with brackets, as you can see. Now the first field we have here is something called label, which again I set to my Linode. That's just the name of our server, so that's the label you'll see in your Linode dashboard. It's just a coincidence that I named it the same. You don't have to do that. I probably shouldn't have done that just to make it obvious. But whatever, you can name the label whatever you want, whatever your naming convention actually is. Now here we have image, another field. We basically choose which image we want to use. We're going to use a Linode image, and the one we are going to use is Debian 10. I just wanted to keep it the same as the Packer video, but there's definitely other types of images you can use. I'll have a link to the API reference in the description below. So basically you can use a different Linux distribution image if you'd like. Region, I'm creating mine in US East, and the type is going to be Nanode because that's of course very simple. And then I'm also declaring a root password of super secret, which is a terrible password. You should never do this, but this is just a test instance, so I really don't care. And I'm going to be deleting it quickly anyway, but there's two problems, obviously. I mean, I hope on your end, your password is going to be a lot longer than this. Just make it randomly generated, that's fine. But second, we really shouldn't have the root password here at all, nor should we even have the token in this file at all. We'll fix that later, but right now, this is just an example, so we're going to keep it simple. So I'll do Control O and then press Enter to save the file, and then Control X to exit out. Now in our Terraform working directory, you can see that we have the Linode example file right here that we just created. So if all is going according to plan, you should be able to do Terraform init which is going to allow us to download the provider. So I'll press enter. Let's hope this works on the first try. And it's downloading provider Linode, and there we go. Now I'll show you why this matters. So I'll bring back the text file now. And up here we have provider Linode. So again, we are choosing what provider we want to work with. And if you're running on AWS or something like that, maybe you'll have AWS here, but you'll have some sort of provider for whatever cloud provider you are using that's important. So here, you scroll up, what I did was a Terraform init. What that's going to do is take a look at that file, and then it's going to download whatever provider you chose. So Terraform is pretty lightweight. It's not going to download all of the providers and binaries to work with all the providers. It has none of them. So when you run Terraform init, it looks at the provider. It says, hey, you're using Linode, because it shows that right here. It knows we're running on Linode because we chose that option. So then it's going to proceed and go ahead and download it. And that's what you're seeing here. It's basically going to download the Linode provider, and it's going to ensure that we have that so that we'll be able to use it. Now, if I list the storage and also show hidden files, we can ignore this. That's just because I minimized the text editor by doing Control-Z. But we have this right here, .terraform. This directory was just created. What's inside there? Let's check it out. We have plugins. Let's go ahead and drill down. And you can see that we have the Terraform provider for Linode downloaded to our local working directory. So already what you can glean from this is that, generally speaking, in the real world, you'll have a directory for every project or server, like I mentioned, and then you'll just do a Terraform init inside each of these one time, which will download the provider for that folder. So this is not system-wide, it's local to this directory. So if you create a new one, you're going to need to run Terraform init again, which will download it for that. So a little redundant, but it works just fine, so we're not going to care about that. But anyway, we did download that provider, and again, we have the example file that I showed you already. This is it right here. So hopefully we should be good to go, so long as I didn't make any syntax errors. So the first thing we're going to do is test it. We're going to do Terraform plan, which we always do Terraform plan first. More on that later. I'll press enter. And it ran pretty quick, so let's go ahead and scroll up here and see what the heck just happened here. So what Terraform plan does is it logs into your account with whatever provider it is, in this case Linode. It logged into our Linode account. And it's basically, looking at everything. It's saying, okay, he wants to create a Linode named My Linode, as you can see right here with the label. And it's desired to be Debian 10. It's just looking to see if we have something that meets this criteria already. Obviously we don't. So what it's going to do then is it's going to show a description here at the bottom of all the things it's going to do. Basically, this is a summary. It's just going to add it. So you can see the plus symbols right here are basically all the things that it's going to add. So I'll show you how to take something away in a minute. But basically, so far so good. It looks okay. Now, this does look for syntax errors, but in my experience, Terraform does not always catch all syntax errors. It'll catch obvious ones when you do Terraform plan. Again, that's what we did. But when you do Terraform apply, which is what we're going to do next, there might still be syntax errors. It's just a less likelihood that there's going to be syntax errors if it passes the plan, but I have seen it many times where it will fail on syntax errors on apply because Terraform plan doesn't check the entire file. So Terraform apply, we should only run that if the plan looks like what we want it to look like. For example, if we have a bunch of servers and we see here that it's going to destroy stuff, we want to pay special attention to that because we don't want to destroy a production server. As long as the summary looks okay, we're good to go. So again, we're going to run apply next. And you just, again, make sure this is what you want to do. Everything looked good. And then you press enter and let's see if it works. It's asking us, do you want to perform this? Now, as you can see here, it does by default run a plan. So that's great, and it does give you confirmation. I don't recommend that you rely on this though, just in case for some reason it doesn't do that. Again, run plan first, even though it's running plan right now when we did apply. It's a little redundant. We just want to be safe. So anyway, it's asking us, do you want to perform these actions? Are you sure? So Terraform is just trying to be a little cautious here, and that's fine. We're just going to type yes and press enter to confirm that we do indeed want to continue. Now here we have a syntax error. And I was actually hoping that we would, because I wanted you guys to see what that looks like. And right here it's basically telling me that the root password does not meet their requirements. It's saying it must contain at least 2 of these 4 character classes, so lowercase, uppercase, numbers, and punctuation. So yep, we have a failure. Again, that just shows you that the Terraform plan didn't catch that, but a Terraform apply, it did actually show an error, so we're going to need to fix that. This is a common workflow with Terraform. So again, I'm happy that it failed. Let's go ahead and edit that file. I'm just going to bring it to the foreground. And here we have the file. So again, it had a problem with the root password being so simple. It needed some other criteria met here. So I'm just going to add a couple of different changes here just to make it meet the requirements. And let's go ahead and save it and exit out. Let's try the Terraform apply one more time and see if it works. So I'll say yes again. And let's see if we get any further. And it looks like we are going to get further. So I'm going to let this run, and then I'll be back once it's finished. Okay, well, this certainly looks very promising. So it is telling us that it actually created the resource. Well, did it? Let's check it out and see. So if I go to Linodes, let's see what we have here. So I'll go ahead and refresh the page. And we can see my Linode is running. I have successfully created a Linode instance with a Terraform script. How awesome is that? And you know what? Let's make it even more awesome. So I'm going to make an edit to the script, but first of all, what I'm going to do is make a copy of the original. And I'm going to copy it to the same but number 2, because we want to build on the original example, just because I want to show you how awesome Terraform is if you didn't already know. And you can see that I have the new example right here, but we don't want to run it from the same directory. So what I'm going to do is just go back over here to the beginning. I'm going to make a new directory because we do want to be in the habit of having a different directory for each of the things that we're doing. I'm just going to call it Terraform Working Directory 2, as you can see here. And I'll go inside that directory. And I'll move the file that I copied and named with the 2. I'm going to basically put that here. And you can see that we just have that one file. So just like always, we're going to run Terraform init. That's going to download the provider because I just created a new folder, so we had to do that again. And I am going to make changes to that file, and I'll be right back. So here we have the latest version of the file with some changes, and the problem I was trying to solve here is that you should never have your API key or your root password in basically a script, because what's going to happen is if it falls into the wrong hands, like I mentioned, I mean, they would have our root password. We don't want that. And we certainly don't want them to have the API key either. So up here at the top, I added 2 different variables, Linode API key and root password. Now they're not equal to anything, so I have empty brackets right here. Basically, I'm just declaring them for future use, but I'm not actually showing what they are in this file because, we don't want these contents in this file. And then here we have the provider, Linode, like we had before. And then we have the token. And the token was equal to the API key in clear text, but I'm basically just referencing the variable Linode-API-key. So it's just basically var dot and then whatever the variable name is right after that. And then here on the resource, I basically did the same thing here, root_pass equals, and then it's just equal to this variable root password, which I declared up here. So as you can see, I'm declaring the variables, I'm declaring them as empty, and I'm referring to the variables in this file, but so far I haven't actually set them to anything as of yet. So I'll go ahead and exit the file, and let's run a Terraform plan and see what happens. Now, since I didn't add anything for the API key, I declared it as empty, it's going to ask me what I want it to be. I'm just going to put some gibberish here, which of course is going to fail. And of course it wants me to add the root password here because I didn't declare that as anything but empty either. So again, just random text. Let's watch this fail. And of course it's going to fail because that's an invalid token. Now the reason why I wanted that to fail is because I wanted to show you guys a better way. Yes, if I added the proper token key when I was asked for it, it would have worked just fine, but there's an even better way to do this. Now, off camera, I just created another file, and it's this one right here, terraform.tf vars. And it's actually 2 lines, even though the first line is wrapped. The first line is the Linode API key, the second one is the root password, same as the variable names. But in this case, it's actually going to contain what they are equal. Now, the benefit to this is that when we are using version control, there's some files that we want to be in version control and some that we don't. Now this Linode example2.tf, I'll go ahead and bring that back up in my editor. There's now nothing in this file that's sensitive. The root password is not in this file, and neither is the API key. So this file, we could put it on a billboard in the middle of the expressway. It doesn't matter because there's nothing secret here. So we can certainly put this in a GitHub or GitLab repository or something like that, and then let other teams work on it and change it, add features to it, because again, there's nothing sensitive here. Now, in this file, the file here, terraform.tf vars, I'll bring that back up again. That's definitely very sensitive. We do not want this to be in the Git repository. So in this example, and I just used Vim out of habit, but that's what I do. But anyway, in this example, we would simply include this in the GitHub or GitLab or SVN, whatever kind of repository you have. We would freely include this, but we would omit this. We would not include this. We would basically put an exclusion in our version control to tell it to ignore this file, so that anytime you push to that file, it's not going to include this, it's going to ignore it. And then you can keep this file here in some other secure form of storage, so that way it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. So the workflow would be an employee or yourself or somebody downloads the Git repository, including the Terraform script. They run Terraform init. They manually add this Terraform TF vars here. They manually add that, and then they run it. So that way we don't have to be afraid of those secrets falling into the wrong hands. Now terraform.tf state, this one here and the backup, basically when you run anything in Terraform, it's going to create a state, which is just a local cache of the state in the cloud provider. It just keeps a record of what's been created or what's been changed. We have a backup file, which is, as I understand it, the previous run. You probably don't want to include those either. You're just going to include your actual Terraform scripts, like this one right here. So basically, what I'm going to do is just run Terraform plan again, which I already did, I guess. So we already know that that is showing that it is proper. There's no syntax errors. Let's go ahead and run Terraform apply, and we're going to go ahead and create it. Now this instance is not going to be any different than the previous one. The only difference is that I just don't have the API key and root password in clear text, but the resulting image isn't going to be any different because I'm not really doing anything custom. But I'm going to let this run and I'll be right back. All right, so it says that it added the resource. Let's see if it's telling the truth. So here we have my Linode. I'll refresh the page. And we also have my Linode 2, which is the one that we just created. So I'm going to go ahead and delete it because I'm going to create it in a different way. I'm going to show you another example. So I'll go here and down to delete, well actually, how about not doing it like that? How about deleting it via Terraform? Because that's definitely something you're going to want to see. So back here in my working directory, I can run this, Terraform destroy, to destroy the resources that are created via this script. So I'll press enter. It's going to check the state. And now it's telling me there's one to destroy. So not only can I automate the creation of a resource on a cloud provider such as Linode, I can also destroy something as well. So I'll type yes right here. It's going to go ahead and delete it. And it's done. So let's go ahead and minimize that, and back up here, I'll refresh. My Linode 2 is now deleted, and that's awesome because I didn't have to manually do it. In fact, I didn't even have to go into my dashboard at all. With that API key, I could simply do everything in the command line, which will make me more productive. So back here in this terminal window here, I am going to show you guys one more example. Now this is where everything comes together. Because like I mentioned in a previous video, I showed you guys how to use Packer to create a custom image. And in that video, I showed you guys how to automate the installation of Apache, which then results in an image that includes Apache already as just a proof of concept, but it's all going to come together right here because I'm going to show you how to take that image that we created and use that in Terraform. So if you haven't already gone through that video, I highly recommend you check it out. But even still, just watch what I'm about to do. I think that it'll make more sense how you can use Packer and Terraform together as one provisioning team. So before we continue, we're going to need to know what our image ID is that we created when we used Packer in the previous video. So to do that, we are going to need to use the command line tools to get that information. So first of all, what you want to do is make sure you have Python pip installed. So the easy way to do that is sudo apt install python -pip. So go ahead and install that. I've already done that, so I'm not going to repeat that process. So now that we have Python pip installed, we can now install the Linode API tools, which allows us to work with our Linode account directly from the command line. So to install that, we will run this command right here. Sudo pip install Linode _API4, just like that. So I'll press enter. And that was pretty quick. So now that's installed. And then once we have the command line tools installed, we can run this command right here, linode-cli images list, which will give us a list of all the images on our account. And yours is probably going to ask you for your key. So mine didn't ask me because I've already put that in, but you would just paste in your API token when it asks you with the command line tools. But I'll scroll up a bit. And we can see that we have this image right here. Your output will probably look a heck of a lot better than mine because I made the text really large, which means that it wrapped a bit, but we have the image name right here that we actually need. So you'll just look for something that says private, then has a ID at the end. If the image is created by Linode, it has Linode at the beginning. If we create it, it has private. And again, we created this image in a previous video. This number will, of course, change. So don't use my values here, it won't work. Anyway, I'll clear the screen. And now in my Terraform working directory, the second one, I'm going to show you the file that I have changed. And you'll be able to see that we could take advantage of that image we created in a previous video in Terraform. So back here in our Terraform script, you can see that I changed the image right here to private / and then the number, the ID number, which again is the image we created in a previous video. This image actually has Apache built in, which is the final change that we made in that video. So effectively what we're able to do is use Packer to create a custom image with custom software tweaks, changes, you name it, and take that image and then use that image in Terraform to further customize that and utilize the changes we made there, which makes everything come together. So I'm going to save this file. We'll run Terraform plan just like always. And it looks good to me. So we'll just change that plan to apply and see if this works. I'll say yes. And it says it's creating it, so I'll give it a few minutes and I'll be right back. So look at that. It looks like we have successfully created another instance with Terraform, this time with a custom image. What could be better? Let's check it out. I'll refresh the page right here. We have my Linode 2 that was just created, and we have the IP address right here. So if all goes according to plan, I should be able to copy that, paste it in here to a new tab. I should see Apache. And I do, which means it definitely did use that image we created with Packer in that previous video. And you know, Apache may not be the best example, but again, that's just a proof of concept. We could have made any kind of changes we wanted to in Packer to create the image, and then now we're taking that image and deploying it with Terraform. This is so fun. I absolutely love cloud, creating resources, and especially automation, because let's face it, if we're doing work more than once and it's the same work, then we're not being very efficient. Automation is key, and Packer and Terraform together have allowed us to customize quite a bit of work. And in the future, maybe we'll use the images that we created with Packer and the scripts we've created with Terraform to automate all kinds of infrastructure, which is just plain awesome. So we've gone over the basics of Packer in the previous video and Terraform in this one, and you could take these basics and you could apply it to other platforms. You can automate more. I mean, the sky's the limit. Your imagination is the only limit. So go ahead and go crazy with this. Create some awesome images and then create some instances on Linode. The sky's the limit. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. And I'll have new videos on my channel here pretty soon. I'll see you there. Thanks for checking out my video. I really appreciate it. If you found it useful, click that like button. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe so you'll see the latest content as soon as it becomes available. If you want to help me out, there's links down below for my Patreon page, as well as links for purchasing my Linux books and also my affiliate store, which has a listing of Linux compatible hardware that I've actually tested personally. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.